Hello, and welcome to a hopefully quick tutorial on the 2015-16 Project Cam Opener proposal and review process. We wanted to document the process itself so that we can learn from it and so that other people can learn from it as well. We're going to walk through step by step all of the different component parts, the different people that have interacted, and the different tools that we use in order to ensure that this process goes off without a hitch. So this is what the entire process looks like, and I want to call attention to a couple of things. One are sort of the different people and components that we're going to be going through. One is the Project Cam Opener applicant. That's the person who would like to take part in Project Cam Opener, which focuses on providing video toolkits to teachers to allow them to capture and reflect upon their practice on a regular basis, as well as providing online communities and a personalized professional learning plan. We'll dig into the personalized professional learning plan process in the next video. So that's the first component. The second is the form and spreadsheet back end, and we'll talk about how the forms and the spreadsheets work together in order to make this process work. And then the last component are the people who are reviewing the proposal to see if it should be included in Project Cam Opener. This process was done in the spring of 2015 to launch with participants over the summer at CamCon. So I'm going to go through each step of this process, starting with the application form itself. So the applicant accesses the Project Cam Opener application form, and then they submit the form. So I have opened it back up so that we can take a look at it specifically. This is the application. You see we've got over 220 applications for the whole process. They went through and utilize this particular form so that they could see, exactly, what they were getting themselves into, as well as answer some really important conversations. So the form actually looks like this. We were looking at the edit view, and now this is the view version of the form. It talked through all of the introductions and then had some branching. So the form itself has a little bit of branching, like this question right here, which is right after the introduction video, says, would I like to either go to the application questions, or I'd like to learn a little bit more about Project Cam Opener. And based upon what you said in this question, it either took you to page 3, which started the questions, or page 2, which is I want to know a little bit more. And so if we scroll down to page 2, it actually gives you a little bit more information, gives you a link to go to in order to find out more information about Project Cam Opener. Specifically, if you are ready to start the application questions, then it branches you to those application questions. So you enter in all of your demographics information and all of that kind of good stuff. Lots of really great questions that are here, and I'm not going to go through the whole form, but on the edit view I'll kind of scroll past and talk about the different elements. So we have demographics questions about you as a participant, you as a teacher or a leader. We ask what you're going to be teaching or leading next year, and then we start to ask things like talking about your own personal situation as a teacher or a leader. What's the problem of practice you would like to engage in? What does your professional support system look like? And talking a little bit about your preferences as a learner. So this was just sort of the beginnings of understanding who these people are. And then we asked them, what would you want in your toolkit? What are the toolkit items you already have access to, and what would you like access to? So in each one of these components of the form, we're asking these different question types, whether they're checking boxes or they're selecting from a list or typing in their responses. And then we ask them, what kinds of videos will you be making? Will you be capturing your practice? Will you be reflecting as a part of a PLC? Doing different components like that. And then we want to make sure that you know what's next in the process. So when they hit the submit button, there are things that happen. So we actually describe here what happens when you hit the submit button, which is that there's some back-end work that the spreadsheet and the form do together. And so we have our lovely little animated GIF for the very final sort of question. These are participants from Project Cam Opener from last year. They give each other a high five, and that's sort of saying to you that you're done with this step in the process. So after that step is done, after you have submitted your form, what you get is that the form information is collected into a Google spreadsheet. This Google spreadsheet is not only this sort of database of all of those form responses, but it also does the magic of triggering a couple of different things. So the two things that we're going to talk about that get triggered when the form gets submitted, so it gets put into the spreadsheet itself, but on form submit, the Autocrat add-on triggers the creation of a document. So it takes the form response and triggers a document to get created. And that's the proposal document. That document is a Google Doc. It gets shared with the email address that you typed into the form. And once the document is created, then we do a little bit of magic, and we, the document has all of the responses that you typed into the form. It puts it into the document, and it shares it with you. But then we also send a second email using Form Mule, which has some very specific instructions and some links that you are able to click on, and we'll talk about what those links do in a second. So let's take a look at that spreadsheet. So when you click the submit button, it goes into the spreadsheet, and that's where you start your work. So let's just take a look at the at this right here, which is the test submission that I always use sort of as the number, the first submission. I always I do a lot of testing, but this is the one that we kept in here so that we know that this is something we can mess around with and things like that. So this right here is the test submission. It's got my name, it's got my school, it's got my address, it has my email address that we can send and share documents to. And it has all of the answers to the questions that we asked. So as long as you keep on scrolling over to the right, you'll start to see that what we get after you have all of your questions answered is we start to get some things that have been added in by the add-on. Okay, so the add-on is up here in the add-ons column or in the menu drop down. And what we're looking for is the Autocrat add-on. So once you have your form all set up and you have it inserting into a spreadsheet, what you want to do is you want to add Autocrat. And what's great about Autocrat is once you've added it as an add-on, once you've done that, then it will stay on your on any Google spreadsheet that you load up. It will say that you have the ability to add Autocrat again to any new spreadsheet that you might want to do. So in order to add it the first time, you actually go to Get Add-ons and you search for Autocrat. Usually it's in one of the featured ones, but just in case you don't see it, you can just search for Autocrat and it'll show up. And instead of a Manage button, because I've already added it, you'll see the plus free button. And so if you want to add it, you do that, and then it'll show up in your lovely add-ons menu. So we're going to go back to Autocrat, and launch is the option that we want. Okay, I'm going to walk through the settings that we've already chosen, but if you were doing it for the first time, rather than edit merge, you would do new merge job. Okay, but for the one that we have already in existence, it's the same process. It just wouldn't have any of this information in the fields or the boxes. You would have to type it in or make your selection. So we'll talk about the selections that have already been made, but instead of editing the merge that was already created, we would create a new one by clicking on the new merge job. And the reason why it's called a merge job is essentially what you're doing is you're making a mail merge. If you ever did a Microsoft Word and Excel where you had all of your fields in Excel and all of your sort of templated documents in Word, then that's what you would do sort of on your desktop. But since we're in Google Drive, you are actually going to do this with a Google Doc and a Google Spreadsheet. And so what you get is the ability to use a template. And so what we have done, so that we have the proposal document already set up, is we have this template. So this is the template, and you'll notice that there are some things in brackets or that have carets around them. And so what you can do here is you can put any of the columns, any of the questions that you asked within the form, you can put them into the template, and they will automatically, every time this merge gets triggered, every time you do the mail merge, it'll take the form response and inject it into the Google Doc. And so what you do is you sort of create the bare bones structure of the document, the template, if you will, and then you put in those little, what we call wildcards or merge tags. You put those into the document, and it will allow you to have those form responses show up into the document. And so what's great is you put that in there, and anytime somebody hits that submit button, it will trigger this, and it will put in whatever their response was. It will put it directly into this document, and it will make something that you'll be able to use, and that the person who filled out the spreadsheet or filled out the form, that they would be able to see it as well. And so we're using this particular document, and we're saying, let's select the sheet that contains the merge data. It's my application sheet, okay? And I just need to map every single one of my fields. Now it's pulling from the document, so it sees that this is what is your name. It's the very first one in the document. Yep, that's right. It's the very first sort of word in the document. So now we need to map it to the question from the form, because you got to map the document to the spreadsheet, okay, to do the merging. So what is your name maps to what is your name. What is your DPS school maps to what is your DPS school. And as long as you keep them the same, it's very, very clear what they should be. Once you've done all of your mapping, and I've got all of mine all set, I can save that, and then I can decide what I want to do with that document. I can choose how I want to name the document, so I have it where it says your first name and then the name of the document, Cam Opener Proposal for 1516. I can decide what I want to create. I want to create a Google Doc, not a PDF, because I want them to be able to edit it. And I want to email and share those merged documents. And what we get is the ability to use the wildcard for whatever email addresses they may have typed into the form. It'll send them directly to the participant, the applicant, and it'll send that document on out. And then I type in the message, sort of the subject and the body of the email, so that they know, oh, this is my proposal document. I know exactly what this is because I filled out the form. It's automatically triggered. And what's great is I can allow them to edit that Google document. I can make it a view-only Google document. I can make it commentable. There's a lot of different things that I can do with this. But one thing to note is you do need to go into your little advanced settings to make sure that you check off Run Autocrat when new forms are submitted. So every time somebody hits the submit button, why don't you run Autocrat so that it'll create the document, okay? You can also have it go into a specific folder. So all of the documents that were created, you want to make sure that they're all organized very nicely, put them into a specific folder. You can have it go into multiple folders even. That's a little bit more complex, but it's not a big deal. And once you're all done, you press save, and as long as you have all your settings set and you've got your template all worked out, then anytime someone hits that submit button, it will trigger the document to be created. And that's what's happened here. So you see it has the merged document ID, the URL to that document, and if I open it up, if I open up that document, what we get is that proposal. We see that's its own document. And what's great is I can see all of the lovely things that are supposed to be there. And if I did everything right, then it shows up correctly. Okay, so this is one that we did very, very early on, and we kept on testing. But if you open up another participant's document, you'll be able to see, oh my goodness, this is the document that we are able to work with. We are able to use it throughout the year. This is the proposal. Okay, so this is the thing that's going to be rated throughout the rest of the process. So now that we have lots of good things that are going on, where we have it creating the document automatically and it's being emailed out, there's also some more information that we want to make sure that people have access to. So we're going to send a second email using Formule, and that's the next thing, that's the step in the process. Okay, so within this process, what you want to be able to do is actually create some links for people to be able to share the document. So what we have that's going on is that we are creating links such as share to Twitter. So it's taking the link from over here that was generated, it's taking that link, and it's allowing you to create a link that can be emailed out. So it'll email out the link for how to share this document, your proposal, to Twitter, sharing the document to Google+, sharing it to Facebook, and we're also doing a couple of things where we're making a shortened link, because the links to Google Docs are really, really long, so you want to make a shortened link. And the way in which you do that is through a couple of different processes where you're using a third-party service called po.st, or just post, and you're able to create a shortened link to be able to use it in the email. Okay? So within this email, we're using Formule to do that. And just like we got our add-on for Autocrat, we're going to get our add-on for Formule. So if I go to Get Add-ons and I type in Formule, what I will have is Formule, the email merge utility. So I'm going to use the same idea, but rather than creating a document with some of the form data, I'm going to do an email that has some of that really rich form data that's able to be calculated within the spreadsheets. So I'm going to go over here because I know that I want to send out my email from a different address. Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm sending out my email, because this is really important. I want to send it out from my DPS address, so I need to be logged in to my DPS k12.net address. This is my Google Apps account, and so if I open up my lovely Formule, what it'll do is it'll walk me through the process of setting up an email to send out to participants that has some of the information that we need to send. Okay? What's great about this process is it's really just like sending an email. Okay, it's really just writing out the email and choosing who gets which email. So in Formule, you can actually set up multiple different emails to send out depending on a response that they have given. So if they have given a response that is, they are from this school, you are able to send out a specific email that is specific to anyone who fills out the response for this school. Okay? For all participants, we can just have it send if essentially like this is not null. And by not null, we mean just that there's something there. So if everyone has a URL of their merged document, meaning if Autocrat has already run, we want to send this email. So it's kind of like an if this, then that. If Autocrat has already run, we're going to send this template number 1. Okay, so that's the column that we're looking at, which says, okay, so the merged document URL is there, meaning that Autocrat has run. We want to send the email. And so now what we want to do is we actually want to edit that template and see what that email is all about. Okay. So what we get to do as it's sort of saving itself and things like that is we get to edit that template, and we can edit any other template that we want, any other email that we might want to send. And if you've ever used like MailChimp or something like that, you can use the same sort of wildcards idea where you're sort of selecting things that you know about the participant, meaning anything that they filled out in that form, you can put it into the email. So let's just look at template number 1. So I can put their name into the email subject. You know, Joe, thank you for your proposal. Okay. You are able to then write whatever you would want. You can use HTML, and what I'm doing is an unordered list. So the bullets that you see, I'm creating the bullets within an email. So I'm giving people what goes first, second, third, and fourth in a timeline for our process. And as you can see, as you go down, we start to link to things, giving people instructions. Go and share your document within our Google Plus community. And then we start to link to things like the shortened document that we calculated. Remember, we changed the really long Google Doc to the shortened document link. And then we're also linking to the next step in the process, which is rating the proposals. Okay? So I'm sharing the link to rate the proposal, which is great because then people can share it via Twitter, can share it via Google Plus, or they can just forward the email and say, you know what, would you rate my proposal? Click this link and go for it. And what's great about this is for every single one of those form responses, it will send out the right email because you've told it which email to send out. So for this one, we just send it for all of the form responses that come in. We're able to do this because it's triggering on form submit. So you want to make sure that it's going all the way through. But those are the steps in the process that are within the spreadsheet itself, right? So the form is collecting it within the spreadsheet. On form submit, Autocrat triggers the creation of the Google Doc, right, from the template. And then the proposal doc, okay, that Google Doc is then emailed as a shortened link, so you can use it really easily with the instructions for how to rate the proposal. So now the next step in the process comes where the applicant receives the email with the proposal doc and the instructions. So just like the email that we saw that was triggered over here, okay, and we can actually see when every single one of these emails was triggered, okay? So you'll notice that in send status in March 23rd, that's when that email was sent out. It was sent to my my Outlook address, and it was sent to my Gmail address. And what's great is, you know exactly when it was sent and who it was sent to. You can see if there were any errors or anything like that. But you see that those things are being clicked on. And when they click on that that form, or they send it out to someone else, right, they are sharing via the community, the Google Plus community, or they're sharing it via email, they're forwarding it on, but they're sharing the actual review process. So that review process looks like this. This is the process that we defined for people to fill out this form. So from the email they get an email to a second form, but it's the reviewers now that are filling out the form, not the applicant. And so what you get is, a lot of the sort of same things where you're asking about who you are as a reviewer, where you're teaching or leading, and then you're actually opening up the proposal. You're opening up that particular proposal and you are rating it. So this is how the reviewer would see this. They would see this form and they would open up the proposal, just like any one of these folks did when they first got theirs. So we're just going to look at this particular document. They would have it open, the proposal right there, and then they would also have the review form open, and they would use that review form. So they would have it and sort of toggle back and forth. They would look at the application, review it, and what's great about this is that after this particular form is filled out, some other parts of the process get triggered. And so what's great, and I'm just going to go right over here. Oops. What's great about this is that when the reviewers read the proposal doc and fill out the ratings form accordingly, right? Because within the form, you actually choose which document you are reviewing. So you make sure that, let's say you're actually reviewing Amber Star's proposal. You are doing that, and you want to make sure that you've got it right. So you know what? That's not correct. So we want to make sure that it's Christine's. And so I need to be able to choose the correct one so that when they hit the submit button, it actually goes through the last step in the process, which is that the ratings and comments from the form are not only captured in the corresponding spreadsheet for that form, but they're actually added into the Google Doc. That proposal Google document, it gets added using Doc Appender. And so what you see here is that Aaron Magley filled out that form, the review form, and it went in and it shows the ratings for this individual proposal, and they're added, they're appended to the bottom. And so the way that that works is actually within the form itself, the add-on has been added. So within that feedback form, all I have done is, once again, get add-ons, and I search for Doc Appender. So the Doc Appender is within this form. Rather than manage, it would be, you know, the plus and free, but because it's already added, it says manage. And what you get is this lovely little sidebar interface where you get to decide which is the question that's going to allow you to choose which document you're going to append. So what's great about this is I can choose the same folder where we put all of those documents. That's the folder. That's the folder we want to use for Doc Appender. So what we get to do is choose that folder and then choose which of the questions we want to populate with all of the document titles from the folder. We're going to choose proposal document name, and I can refresh the list to make sure that everything within here, within this particular question right here for proposal document name, these are all of the documents that are within the folder. Now, they could have been created any which way. They could just be a document that's sort of collecting all of the different things, and you'll notice that there are some things that don't say proposal. They say Personalized Professional Learning Plan, or PPLP. So any document that was created after the proposal process can also be joined here for the ratings process. And so what's great about that is that you can save and populate that particular question, and every time that someone fills out the form, they select that document, and the information from the feedback response from that second form gets injected or appended to the bottom of the document. So that's the entirety of the review process, where you're able to see what it looks like kind of globally, and then go through step by step what it looks like. There are a couple of things that are missing here, like the fact that we, after all of the reviews have come in, we actually do a selection process, and we could outline how we've done that in the past, where we go through and see the ones that have been rated highly and rated low, and we actually go through the process of giving people some extra incentive to go back and revise their proposal so that they can make it better and so that they can take part in Project Cam Opener. But I hope this process of documenting this process has helped you to understand the way in which we're using these different tools to help build a much more sustainable way of creating an application, a proposal, and doing the review process, because it's really important that this all goes seamlessly, and that there are lots of people that have the ability to do this and to really leverage the tools for what they are meant to do, rather than just sort of having everyone fill out a paper application or fill out a form and then having to do all of this manually, because there's very little manual manipulation of the information, and for processes like this, it works out really wonderfully. So thank you so much for watching. It was not as brief as I might have liked, but hopefully you like the level of depth here. Please do let me know if you have any questions about our processes, and I'd love to learn from the way in which you are doing these kinds of things. Have a great day.